Good morning, afternoon, or evening from wherever you're joining us from in the world from today. Welcome to the 6th session of the SpeakUp Webinar Series. SpeakUp is a unique collaboration between KeyNote and SpunkGo, in which the KeyNote directory members and training alumni will share their experiences and expertise on various topics each month to inspire and ignite meaningful conversations on subjects that matter and bring communities together through SpunkGo. A little about KeyNote Women Speakers. KeyNote Women Speakers is the world's leading directory of female public speakers. Founded in Singapore in 2017, KeyNote is a nonprofit organization that runs entirely on volunteers. KeyNote aims to bring diversity to speaking stages around the world. They focus on diversity simply because diversity increases group intelligence. SpunkGo is an all-girls global organization that operates in 20 countries with 3,000 members across the world. SpunkGo hosts regular LifeSkill webinars for young women in their various chapters, hosting successful women entrepreneurs and professionals in their webinars. SpeakUp has completed half a dozen webinars today. Today's session commemorating World Youth Day is a shout out to youth people in the world and young. We are delighted for hosting celebrated youth icon and Paralympian Theresa Go in our 6th episode of SpeakUp. Recipient of Singapore Public Service Awards and as well as the Youth Inspirational Award, Paralympian Theresa Go is an inspiring role model to thousands of youngsters and young people around the world. Theresa will speak about her journey and her sheer resilience and grit that made her the powerhouse she is today. About Theresa Go. Theresa is a Paralympic swimmer from Singapore. She represented her country in various international competitions for 20 years before retiring in 2019. She believes her success is largely due to the strong support from her family. Theresa has participated in the last 4 Paralympic Games, and she was the first female Singaporean swimmer to qualify for the Paralympics in 2004. A pioneer in the disability sports scene in Singapore, Theresa strongly believes in the importance of seeing the ability in a person and not their disability. And without further ado, I welcome Theresa.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me here today. Let me quickly just share my slides.
Recording in progress.
Just a little bit of an introduction. I am Theresa Go, and thank you so much for the introduction. I am 34 this year. I have also, like in the introduction mentioned, I swam basically for 20 years before I retired at the end of 2019. I started swimming when I was 12, that was the year I started competing. But I really started swimming much earlier. So I also have a disability called spina bifida. It is basically, at birth, my spinal cord was affected. And there actually really is a range of how severe the disability affects us. Somebody with spina bifida can be somebody who's just walking around and has a little bit of a backache once in a while. But someone with spina bifida can also be somebody whose brain swells also because of something neurological. I'm not very sure, but so I'm somewhere in the middle. For me, that basically means that I am unable to walk. For me, I grew up with the disability, and I was also the firstborn child. So for my parents, it already came without a manual, right? What more a child with a disability? So they truly was surprised because in the all the gynae appointments that my parents went to, there was really actually no indication that I would come out anything other than an able-bodied healthy child. So when I was born, I remember my parents telling me that the gynae took me away from my parents, my mom, and didn't really say anything to them. Only later on came back to say that they had something to tell them and there was something to discuss. So that's when they knew. They knew basically the same time as the doctors. I can't press next. Okay. So I was born with spina bifida, as I mentioned, and that meant that there were things that I had to do really early on. So I had my first surgery when I was 3 months old. That was the surgery done on my spine to close the hole up, because what spina bifida does is also, it is because spinal cords are exposed, and because of a hole in the back of the spine, the nerves get pushed out and it gets exposed. So the very first surgery I had was to push the nerves back in and to kind of sew it back up. So at the back of my spine, my back, there's actually a small little scar to indicate where the operation was. I also had different surgeries done on my feet, because I also had club feet, which meant that it turned inwards. I also had surgery on my fingers. So when I was born, these 3 fingers were actually fused together. Oh, it's a bit bright. It was fused together like this. And the surgery was done to split it up so that I can hold things more easily. But I think if they knew that I was going to be a swimmer, they might have left it. I also had surgery done on my hips, my knees, for various reasons. Some to straighten the knee, some to, I don't know, there's something to do with my hip. I'm not even sure. I really spent a lot of time in the hospital, basically. But I still ended up, I think, a really happy baby, honestly. I had a really smooth childhood. I don't remember much of the hospital visits, to be honest. A lot of time was spent in cast because of the surgeries, but my parents tried to still make it as happy, as normal as they could for me. I think my parents are both really creative people, so they like to draw on my cast and make it look like I had shoes on. And also, I think something that was really important for me growing up was the fact that the people around me were always enabling my independence, right? So they did things like making sure that light switches were lowered. They made sure that anything that I needed to access, I could access it on my own. And that really allowed me to grow up with the mindset that I could do anything on my own, right? Something else that they did was also, when I was, I think, in kindergarten, they tried to enroll me into, I guess, school for the first time, childcare. And they always got turned down, because every time they said, oh, my child has a disability, they get rejected immediately. So my parents had to be a bit creative. They registered first. They made sure that I got accepted. And then they told them, by the way, she has a disability. And then later on, when I went to school, primary school, that's me on the right, obviously. I was using crutches at the time, because I think that was also something that allowed me to be a bit more independent. So I think my school was just across the house. So they made sure, one thing also was to make sure that I went to school on my own, you know. This is something that I regard as a milestone moment. My parents always made sure that, you know, they, as much as possible, enabled me, right? So this was when I was, I think, about 9 years old, and I was in the playground with my parents, and I saw this structure, you know, and I said, you know, I want to go up there. And as parents of a child with disability, you know, the very first instinct, I think, is to fear, to be afraid, you know, that I might fall. But my parents were different, I guess. They thought about it, but they're like, you know, let's let her try. And so I put my crutches at the side, as you can see, and I slowly made my way up to the top. And I think I remember this moment as a milestone moment that led to all the other moments in my life. It led to me being unafraid to try. And I could have very easily fallen, for sure. But if I didn't try, I would never have known that I could do this. About a couple of years later, I got into competitive swimming for the first time. I've always been a water baby. I've loved the water for as long as I can remember. In Singapore, you can find pools every stone throw away. And for me, it's also the one place I felt the most amount of freedom. On land, I am currently a wheelchair user. You can't really see it right now. But physical landscapes and physical boundaries are normal for me. I feel like everywhere I go, if I'm on land, there's always things that can stop me in my tracks. But in the water, it's the one place I feel like I can go wherever I want, you know? So the pool has always been a source of freedom to me. It has always been the place I love and given me that feeling of freedom, yeah, basically. And so later on, as I went from the first picture playing in the water, then to the right with my family member, my whole family, we loved playing pool too. I joined swimming for the first time, the one at the bottom with us all in the pool. That's my very first team. It's also the team with all people with disabilities. There's visual impairment, hearing impaired, intellectual disabilities, and other physical disabilities. Like, on the right is about a couple of years later when I moved to different teams. That's my first team with all able-bodied swimmers, and I'm the only swimmer with a disability. If you told me that at the start of my swimming career that I was going to be a Paralympian, I would not believe you. I am not naturally a competitive person. I'm not naturally ambitious. I like to take things as they come and just go with the flow. So when I joined the Paralympic Games for the first time in 2004, I was surprised because I was like, oh, wow, I made it here, you know. That's my coach behind me, right behind me. And I was, I think, 17 years old at this point, and it was my first Paralympic Games. It was also the one place that I felt like I belonged finally, because everywhere I looked was somebody with a disability, and everybody was here for the same reason, you know. They were here to strive for sporting success, in sporting to strive for sporting success. They wanted to do the best they could in their sport, and they all had a disability of some kind. And so I felt like, wow, like I want to come back here next time. I want to do well enough to be able to come back. So after the Athens 2004 Games, I got into finals for all of my events, and all 7 of my events. And my coach was like, you know, you have to come back and you are gonna do even better next time, you know, if you put your heart to it. So after I came back from 2004 Athens, I had to take my O levels, like the leaving examinations after secondary school, and then I had to decide whether to continue school or not because I know some people can juggle the time between school and sport. I'm not one of those people. I had to choose. So at this point, I was like, okay, I have new friends. I have this new world, school. I love school. But I also have this other thing I'm trying to chase. I'm trying to chase success in my sport, right? So then I was thinking, okay, I'm going to have to choose one of this. I spoke to my coach, I spoke to my family, I spoke to my friends, but ultimately I had to decide for myself. So I thought, okay, education is something I believe is lifelong. I believe I can come back to studying in the future. But sport is something that has almost a little bit more of a time limit. So I decided to quit school and go into full-time training. So that meant 4 years of swimming and nothing else but swimming. And I think I got to a point where I didn't balance everything properly. From the start of the 4 years before the games, the Beijing 2008 games, I was really confident. I was sure I was going to get at least top 3, right? I was sure I was going to get a gold, to be honest. And as we got nearer and nearer to the games in 2008, 4 years later, I was less and less confident. And it could be due to my age, could be due to just the lack of preparation. I was not ready for anything other than winning, right? So after saying so much, long story short, I missed my bronze medal by less than a second. I missed it by 0.7 seconds. You know, it's just a touch. And it truly was the most devastating time for me because I felt like I had it in my hands and I just let it go. And so after these games, it was the first time my coach had ever seen me cry. It was my parents were there watching me, so I felt like I had let them down also. I felt like I had let everybody down, right? So when I left the games, every time I looked at the pool or thought about swimming, I was sad. and I was really upset. You know, I cried a lot. I was disappointed. I was angry. I was angry at everybody and myself, you know. So I decided to go into powerlifting, which is a bench press, single bench press, maximum bench press lift sport. And because I love the gym, I thought, you know, it's a natural kind of transition for me. So I decided to go into that for 9 months. I didn't touch the pool. I didn't touch the water for 9 months. It came to after 9 months, after training for in the sport of powerlifting, I came to this point where I had to decide again whether to stay in powerlifting, where I was doing okay, or do I want to go back to swimming in this kind of space where I didn't know what was going to happen. Was I going to be able to come back from that failure, right? And to be honest, it was something that was internal. I felt inside that I was not ready to leave yet. I was not done yet. So I stopped powerlifting. I went back to swimming, and the next couple of years was spent trying to find that love again for swimming. I wanted to come back better, right? So I know the next game, oh, sorry, I missed this slide. This is the day after my 100 breaststroke where I missed the bronze. My parents brought me out to go and eat pao because we were in Beijing. And they were just, you know, trying to be there for me, and they've always been really supportive of me no matter what. Anyway, fast forward 4 years later, that was London, and the main goal for me these games was to enjoy myself, because I felt like I had missed that part of swimming in the time that I was trying to achieve success. And I think I succeeded. I don't remember swimming anything in these games, even though I did. I remember watching the opening and closing ceremony. I remember watching Jay-Z, Coldplay, and Rihanna. I remember nothing else. I remember having a lot of fun. And I think that was something that I wanted to achieve, and I did. But after this, I think that was when I knew I had to step it up, right? I had the Rio to look forward to next. And I knew I wanted to be in the best shape I could. So I had to do different things to kind of lead to that moment. First thing I had to do was have surgery done again, because I had a shoulder injury that I had sustained from the years of swimming before Rio. And because I had felt like I had lit a fire, right? And it was really, really hard to be patient, because I was raring to go. I was excited, but I couldn't train. So I had to be patient. I had to slow it down. I had to listen to my coach, listen to my physio and the doctor. But when I finally recovered, this was my schedule. It was swimming twice a day, gymming in between, lots of rest, and something that I learned from the years something I learned from Beijing was that is really important to rest and to have fun. So in between all that, I still made sure that I had fun doing all this. This was the big games before Rio. It was also the first time that Singapore had held an international games on home soil. So it was the first time that my family and friends got to watch me compete on international stage firsthand. They got to watch it live. So it was something that was really important to me, and I did well enough, you know, on the way towards Rio. But this was really a highlight for me on the way to Rio. But then also when 2016 came, I pushed it up another gear, right? I was never home much. I think I remember being home 3 months out of the whole year. Every other time I was in some other country, training, competing, really, really focused on what I wanted to achieve. But all this I could never have done anything on my own, like by myself. It took a team to be there with me, and it took a huge team. The girl next to me is my teammate. She is the first Paralympic gold medalist for Singapore. She's still competing. She's also my teammate, my best friend. The ones behind are the rest of our team, or most of our team. I think I like to say that we are both F1 cars, and this is like our F1 team. And all we had to do was focus on swimming fast. A little bit of a fun fact: I photoshopped my biomechanist because I didn't want him to feel left out. He's the one on the right. So this is the last training camp before Rio. I remember this very clearly. I don't know who took this photo actually, But I remember this photo, this moment very, very clearly, because this was one of my make or break moments. It had been a whole year of being kind of away from family. I was really tired. I was really sore. And this was the first day of training camp. Usually the first day of training camps are really easy. We go there, we swim a little bit, and then we come up and then we go and rest. But today, this day was the first day of training camp. And my coach decided to give us a really, really tough set. It was so tough. I was considering giving up. I was like, oh wow, I'm so tired, I'm so sore, and you're trying to kill me. But I also reframed my mind. I was like, okay, he must be doing this for a reason. I trust my team, I trust my coach. What do I need to do now to ensure that I am en route? I'm still going to achieve the goal, the goal of a medal at the games, or doing the best that I can at the games. So at this very moment, I told myself, you know what? I have to embrace the pain. I have to love the pain. So every lactate test that came, every soreness I felt, I had to want the soreness to push to the next level. So I told myself, love the pain, love the pain, love the pain. And it worked. I think it worked. I got through the whole set. I felt like I was better than I came into the training session. And I got what I wanted, I got my bronze medal. Also, if you notice, the timing that I got for my bronze medal was the Beijing 2008 gold medal time, exact same time. But so all these kind of came into fruition, right? Years after, like 8 years after Beijing. And it was such a big moment. But I have to also realize this wasn't the end of my journey. As much as the event is set up so high in my head, it was, I thought about this Rio Games for years and years, and I thought about my event for so long. But now that it's come and it's past, what comes after, right? So for me, post Rio, I wanted to go and have some fun. Maybe it's a bit confusing playing two videos at once. At the top was me skydiving for the first time. It was amazing. I would go back again. I couldn't do that when I was training because it was a bit too dangerous, my coach felt. So after Rio, I made sure that I went to go and do it first. Bottom is wheelchair rugby, super fun. Another name that they like to give is murder ball. Amazing sport. I highly recommend it if you can access it. And I also went to try rock climbing. So all these things, I went to make sure that after I had achieved whatever I set out to achieve, I went to have fun. How do I go next? Okay. But also what I think what was the most important thing for me was after 2016, I felt like there were a lot more eyes on me. There was a lot more publicity given to not just me, but the sport of Paralympic swimming, Paralympic sport in Singapore. But because I felt so many eyes on me, I was really uncomfortable with the idea that the only message that I seemed to be giving was about my sport. And I didn't want that to be the case. So something else that I did more of after 2016 was going around and whether it's talking to different corporate companies, whether it's going out of Singapore to talk about being a gay Paralympic athlete in Asia. I think all these different labels or identities are important to me, whether it's being disabled, whether it's being a woman, whether it's being queer, whether it's being, what am I missing out? Disabled? Did I mention disabled? All these different things all of this are part of me, right? And being queer is something that, in particular in Singapore, I felt like people were not as willing to talk about because we still have really discriminatory laws against homosexuality in Singapore, and so being queer and open about it is not as common as we like. So I went to Hong Kong to talk to, I think Out Leadership is talking about to different companies, CEOs, leaders of companies, how it's important to be able to bring your best self to work. And yeah, I also came out publicly in the national papers in 2017. And I think I was also the first Singapore athlete, or something like that. First Singapore athlete to come out publicly in the papers. And we also have this event called Pink Dot, which is basically a pride protest to speak out against the discriminatory laws in Singapore. It's like pride, but not so much. And I was also an ambassador for that after I came out in the papers. I am also currently giving back to different boards. So I'm in the board for the Cat Welfare Society, which speaks out against, which speaks out for responsible adoption and ownership of cats in Singapore. And also I am on the board of the Singapore Disability Sports Council, which is the main company organization that has helped me to get where I am today. Something else that I also do for fun is recently my girlfriend and I set up a YouTube channel, and which is linked to Spotify and stuff like that, just to talk about interabled, interracial, intersectional relationships. You know, it's not a lot of videos yet because we're both very busy. But I think it's also something fun for us to do on the side, to be able to represent, to be able to talk about things that might be a bit hard, whether it's race issues or being a queer couple in Singapore. And I guess I've spoken long enough. This is something I'd like to end on. It's a quote which I strongly believe in, which has helped me, I think, get to this point and and I'm really happy with my life, really happy with the way things have turned out. And I think it's because I follow these three things: being kind, being brave, and being yourself. Because I think being kind is something that's really easy. It's almost like a chain reaction. You're kind to somebody, they're kind to somebody else, and it just sparks this chain, right, reaction of kindness, which is, I think, really important. Being brave, something that's maybe not so easy, you know, in the face of certain things and challenges. Sometimes being brave takes, as it means, you know, it takes a lot of courage. But once you get past that first stage, it makes you, I think you'll be proud of yourself for it. Being yourself, I think, is something that can be quite tough, especially in the space where you hear different messages of people telling you that you should be this or that, you shouldn't be this or that, you know. I think being able to know yourself really well, being able to sit with yourself and know who you truly are and who you want to be is something that I believe not many people know what or have. Yeah. And yeah, I think that is all I have to share. Thank you so much. Any questions? You can ask now.
Thank you so much, Theresa. The journey that you've gone through is truly inspiring. So we have a few questions here from the audience. And the first one is, how did you deal with discrimination against your disability, and how do you maintain your confidence?
How do I deal with the discrimination?
How do you basically deal with the discrimination and maintain your confidence in the same? Yeah.
I honestly don't think I face as much direct discrimination with regards to being disabled. I think it's more so with being a queer person. But if anything, I just don't listen to it, honestly. I don't care about what people say. And I think it's easier said than done for sure. But because I actively choose what messages to look at, comments sections, I don't read comment sections in the newspapers. Like, you know, when they have articles, I think comment sections are one of the spaces that breeds the most hateful messages, because they don't have to show their faces, right? And they can very easily spread their message of hate in that comment section. So yeah, I avoid comment sections altogether. I think it's also being able to deal with negative comments or constructive criticism, right? I think something that I've learned over the years is being open to not just knowing what I want to say, but also being open to listening, because I may have an idea of what my messages are. I may have an idea of how I feel about certain topics, but then I cannot claim to know everything. So even though sometimes it's a bit difficult, I have learned to be open to listening to people's sides, you know. I think I've strayed a little bit from the question, but yeah, I think it's about active choice of messaging and active listening at the same time for me. Yeah.
I think that's great advice, and maybe hopefully this helps people going through similar situations. The next question here is, how have you maintained motivation in spite of all your challenges that you've had?
Well, firstly, I'll say I don't think I have many challenges. Honestly, I don't like. I think the challenges that I do face are things like staircases, you know, maybe. But they don't affect my daily life so much, I think. So I don't think I actually think I'm really privileged. I think I'm very, very privileged. I have little to no worries in life. I have great family and friends. I have I have nothing to complain about really. So whenever possible, I guess I try to give back and try to do what I can to raise certain issues, right? One example I think is right now I'm working with a company. They're called Smart BFA, so Smart Barrier Free Access. So it's basically accessible Google Maps accessible Google Maps. So I think this company aims to be able to put out an app where if I use it, I don't have to worry about running into steps, right? For right now, if I use Google Maps, sometimes there are moments where I get to a place and realize that I cannot go across the road because there's no lift that takes me up the overhead bridge to the other side. So things like that, right? And then because of that, I have to go to find a different route altogether. And then I have to, I might end up late for my appointment and stuff like that. So one of the things that I think is really important is equal access, whether it's physical, emotional, or legislative, right? I think access is really important for everybody. And so this is one of the areas which I feel is something that I can give back in. Like I said, I am really privileged. I can take private cars, I can take taxis, but there are people who can't. And so if they do run into challenges like this, no lifts at the overhead bridge, it's harder than if I were to go through it, because they may not be able to take taxis and stuff like that. So yeah, I think I will reiterate that I don't think I faced that many challenges, honestly. Yeah, so then it's about being understanding that other people face it worse than me, and how do I then give back to be able to make their lives better.
73.
We have a question here that says, if you had to live your life again, what would you have done differently?
Honestly, I wouldn't change anything really. I have no regrets, honestly. I have zero regrets about my life, whether it's the failures that I faced. Like I think the failures have led to my successes. And I feel like also if I change anything about something in my past, it could have worse effects right now, right? And the space that I'm in right now is really good. I think I have nothing to complain about. Like I said, sometimes life is not easy. I'm not saying it's easy, but it doesn't, like, life doesn't have to be easy to be enjoyable. You know, I think sometimes challenges also help to build the person that you are in the end. And yeah, I think I have zero regrets. I would do it all again.
That's a very good thing to hear, and I definitely agree with that. The question here is, who was your mentor / inspiration that time when you started your career?
It was another swimmer. So I had a senior swimmer in the same team who's also with a physical disability. So she really helped to guide me a little bit along the way. But I have a lot of, I guess, different role models. I have different people that I try and learn from. I don't have a particular one because I think instead of just one person to look up to, that you can look at different people for different inspirations. You know, different people have different things to offer. So for me, I have had different people that I've learned from over the years, for sure. Whether it's my coaches, my teammates, my family, my friends, yeah, strangers even sometimes, you know.
There's a lot of inspiration around, yeah.
Yeah.
Could you share some insights for undergraduate students that will help them overcome all the obstacles for their future career?
For undergrads?
Yeah, undergrad.
What kind of challenges? It depends.
There is no context here, just as an undergraduate.
I don't know. Like, I think if we look at it really generally, I don't know if I'll answer the question, but I believe that almost nothing in life is impossible to get through, right? So challenges can be hard. I think for me specific, let me try to think. So for me, sometimes I don't like studying, right? I don't really like studying. Is there a clarification? Engineering student. What are the challenges specifically? If you want, you can unmute.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'm Sadia from Bangladesh. I'm
Hello.
currently studying engineering, undergraduate student. So my question was, we are facing some problems. We are facing, female engineers are facing some obstacles in their job sectors with male students over. So for these, as a fresher, so which challenges we should take, or which skills should we learn so that we can overcome any obstacles, or any we can pass any challenges in our future career goals. So that was my question.
So when it comes to
you can say future job fields,
okay.
So how can we or which skills should we learn from now on?
Firstly is to ignore everything else haters are saying. I think it's easier said than done also, right? So there's always gonna, like, at the moment, unfortunately, there's I think there's a plane flying past. So okay, I think there's always at the moment still a lot of gender discrimination in various sectors. It's something, this is, I would say, I don't know if you can hear that. Sorry. Okay, I think this is a problem that I think has to be dealt with more than just you, right? You're not responsible for all this. The challenge that you are currently facing is not, you're not the only one responsible for it. What you can do is, I think, to know very strongly what you want to do. Is engineering what you want to do? Is engineering your one goal, right? If it's something you want to do, put your head down, like just work hard at it, right? There's always going to be external factors. There's always going to be people that potentially tell you you're in the wrong space, you're in the wrong place, but only you can decide if that is true, right? I think you know what I mean? I think in sport it's the same, you know, there's going to be people that will tell female athletes that they shouldn't look like that, they shouldn't gain so much muscle, you shouldn't do this, shouldn't do that, right? But then in the end, the only one that can be responsible for your own life is you. So then I would just ignore them, because I I can listen to what they say, and then it will affect how I perform and how I feel about myself. And if I feel badly about myself because of something somebody else has said, right, then it will just trickle down, right? It will lead to worse things in life. So I think I think I faced a few naysayers, you know, people who for various reasons, whether they say that oh, you're a female athlete, you need to look a bit more feminine. Wow, you look so really muscular, you know. Why do you look so muscular? Do you take drugs? I don't. Or or like whether it's related to my my queerness, right? They will say you shouldn't be gay, or why are you being so open about it? Why are you being so loud about it? But in the end, like, I have chosen that this is the life I want to lead. This is the life I want to portray into the world. And if you don't like it, then too bad.
That's a really
Thank you
great.
so much for your insightful answer.
Thank you.
I have one more question. So how do you normally manage yourself or put yourself together when you face any challenges situation, or when you see some obstacles in your life? So what things motivates you to overcome these situations or put yourself together?
I guess the example I'll give is my 2008 Beijing obstacle challenge, right? It's like, I don't like when people say to just think positively, because it's not possible. For me, I personally, I made sure that I allowed myself to feel that sadness, right? I allowed myself, I think at the very start, I didn't allow myself to feel that. I told myself, stop, like, it's not important, don't be sad. But after a while, I realized that that's the wrong way to go about it, because the more I push it away, the more it's gonna sit inside of me, right? So I allowed myself to feel the sadness. I allowed myself to feel the disappointment, you know. But I told myself, what, like, there has to be something after. I'm sad, sure, but then what am I going to do to be able to come back from that, right? So then I was sad. I allowed myself to feel it and cry a few times, right? But then I also look forward. Okay, I was like, what do I need to do now? I need to learn how to enjoy the sport again. So then it started from like different steps. So then it's about being in the water, not training, just playing, right? Just being floating in the water. Once I got to the point where I was able to just play and enjoy and actually feel happy in the water, then I moved to training. So then I was like, okay, now I can start training. So then it was a bit more. And it's about, again, knowing yourself. How much can you handle, right? Different people will have different limitations, different how much they can handle. So for me, this is how much I knew. Okay, I'm going to train half an hour today anymore, and I'm going to not enjoy it. So half an hour, 1 hour, 1.5 hours, like it got more until the point I could handle it, the whole training session. That's one example only, right? So I think if I would break it down, it is to first allow yourself to feel that emotion of negative emotion or stuff like that. But after allowing yourself that, what are the steps you're going to take to pick yourself up? What are you going to do to help yourself get better and not have to dwell in this negative space anymore? Yeah, and I think step by step, however long that takes. For me, it took years, but however long it takes, and whether you need help, whether you need people to be there supporting you also, you have to accept that. I think maybe one of the things that maybe I could have done a little bit better was to allow people to come in and help me. I'm generally quite stubborn, so then I didn't allow people to come and help me. I didn't ask for help. And so I had to do a lot of the emotional kind of baggage and challenges on my own. But I think something that we need to be able to do is also accept help whenever we know we need it. Yeah. I hope that answered your question.
Hopefully that did. I think that was some really good advice, and it's really good that you were able to reflect on that and come up with that. Mm-hmm. Our next question here is, have you become a role model with other girls in Singapore with disabilities, and have they kind of like followed you?
I don't know. You have to ask them. I think I would also not encourage people to just look at me to be a role model, because I think there's, like, earlier I've said that we can learn a lot of things from different people. I think whatever you feel like you can take from my message, take it and then move, and then be like, kind of be the person that you can also provide that source of inspiration for somebody else. I think the difference is that maybe I am also a bit more of a visible person in my country, so then people can hear my messages a little bit louder and clearer. But I feel like everybody has a story to tell. I think everybody has something to share that we can learn from, not just people who are more famous, maybe.
Definitely, yeah. In your eyes, what is the role of family in terms of individual success?
The roles of family. So I think I would caveat by saying that family can come in different shapes. I don't think that the family that you are born with is necessarily the only family that you can have. I believe and I understand that there are some families that just don't support you as much as they should, right? So for me, I have my biological family. I have my outside family, I guess my friends, I consider family. And yeah, I think in many ways you need family. You need people there to support you in things that you do, things that you want to do. It's rare or really, really difficult to be able to do anything on your own, no matter what you're choosing to do, right? So yeah, I think the role of family is important, whether it's your chosen one or the one you're born with. So seek out the family you want if your biological family aren't capable of supporting you to be the best person you can be.
That's a very good message, because I think a lot of people do think that their biological family is the only family that they have, but you can definitely
I think
more.
Yeah, people like to say that blood is thicker than water, but then I know that particular phrase has a continuation, right? I just can't remember it. Yeah, so I think they like to pick and choose. They say blood is thicker than water, but then there's also another part of this phrase that also emphasizes how sometimes blood is not the only thing that I mean, like your biological family is not the only one that can provide the support that you need. Yeah.
Yeah. The next question here is, you are such a strong person. Your story is very inspiring. Thank you for sharing it with us. I would like to ask a question. What is your definition of success? Please say one line that you think the most important thing to being successful in life is.
Different people have different versions of success. I think being successful is being happy, because I think that's something that not many people can achieve, no matter like whether how many accolades you get, no matter how much money you get. It doesn't equate to happiness. So I think to be successful is to be happy. It's very maybe very on the surface. Maybe some people would laugh or at the simplicity of it, the naivety of it. But I think being happy is all we really, really need. Once we are able to truly be happy with the person we are and the life we have, then I can say we are successful, I think.
It's definitely something that's overlooked, but it's very simple. If I may ask about your personal front, how did you meet your girlfriend, and how did your friends and family react?
I met her online, on a dating app, and we both thought that we were not going into something serious, but we did. So it's always important to roll with the punches, be adaptable. My family and friends have always been okay. I think the added complication is that she's mixed race, so she's Indian Chinese, and I think in Singapore especially, there's a lot of race issues that get swept under the rug, and people tend to brush it aside and say they're not racist or stuff like that. But I think we all kind of have internalized a certain amount of racism, especially if the whole country is a little bit racist, right? Or the whole world is racist. So there's always a lot of unpacking, a lot of conscious unlearning to do. And I think for one of the things that maybe is a bit challenging for not really with my family and friends, but with a lot of families that have Chinese families that have partners with different races, I think is one of the things that they can find a bit challenging to talk about. A lot of microaggressions, you know, when they talk about stereotypes about race. Yeah. So I mean, personally, there wasn't really any issues. My family have always been really supportive of the people that I've dated. The only thing that matters to them is whether I'm happy or not. So sometimes she stays over my place, and I've met her family. So we're both pretty lucky, to be honest.
That's really great to hear. Congratulations.
Thank you.
For my advice, this is just advice, but you can write down your journey in a book so it could be used for other generations. Yeah.
A book is on the way.
Please share one of your favorite quotes.
My favorite quotes? So I have really bad memory, so I can't remember a lot of the quotes. But one of my favorites is this that I hang on, if you give me like 1 minute, just on my.
Of course.
Okay. Yeah. So one of my favorite quotes is, "It is no measure of good health to be well adjusted to a sick society." So I think something that I really like about it is that people will tell you that, like, if you grow up in a world that is inherently racist and ableist and homophobic, does it mean that that is the right world to live in? No, right? I think it doesn't. You have to be very conscious about what you are, where you are, and what are the messages that are being thrown at you from the moment you are born. So I think there are certain things that people think is right or have just because they've known it all along, but it doesn't mean it's something that should always stick with, right? You know. So I think I really like that message. I can't remember who said it. You can Google it.
How do you motivate yourself instantly when you feel depressed?
I can't. I don't think anyone can instantly motivate yourself when you're depressed. I think I think I sound like a broken record because I say you have to know yourself, but I really believe you have to know yourself. So some people need to get out of that space by talking to somebody. Some people need to do it on their own. Some people like to play music. Some people like to just go out and take a walk. It depends on what works for you. So for me, I know that I need time. So sometimes I get into really low states in my life. And what really helps is to allow myself the time to feel why I'm feeling this way. Sometimes no matter what I do, I will not be able to get out of that negative space. So I just need to give myself time. But then after that, then once kind of I feel a little bit better, then I go and do something that makes me happy. Yeah, it works for different people. I don't think it's really ever possible to instantly snap out of it.
Yeah, it's very difficult to give advice that pertains to something very personal that may differ from person. So I think the advice of knowing yourself was very good for this question. What would the best advice from you for those suffering from insecurities in life, especially skin disease?
Something that I think has worked for me. So your thoughts are shaped by what you consume, I think. So things like the videos you watch, the Instagram pages you follow, the news you read, anything that you consume and read and absorb will shape your mind, right? So something that I realized early on was how we see a lot of certain types of beauty or certain types of what is perceived to be the ideal shape, race, size, and hair length, stuff like that. Then it's always kind of ends up being the same, right? And then that shapes the way you think about yourself, the way you think about other people, the way you perceive what is ideal. So then for me, it was about very consciously choosing who I follow or what I read or choosing what I see constantly, because I mean I'm always on Instagram, and if I always see the same type of person, you know, then I will end up thinking that that is the only kind of person or type of image that is acceptable. So that is one way. I think for me it worked because I was kind of, I guess, manipulating my own mind, making sure that I shape what I want to believe. So I think everyone, I really believe every kind of body size, shape, color, skin, you know, or how it looks is acceptable. It's just how society has told us that it's not. So then you shape it by believing that it is acceptable.
So I will go on with 2 more questions, but I think in the chat below, we have given Theresa's LinkedIn. So if you want to connect with her and ask her even more questions, you can do so. So this question is a bit like the others, but I'll keep it brief. This person is trying to practice their dream career, but with a few challenges, they're not able to, and they feel like giving up. Any message on how they can handle it? Again, this has been a question that's been asked before, so just a brief.
I think one thing about whenever we are going through challenging moments is to think about after the challenging moment is over as a way of motivating ourselves to keep going, you know. And I will also say that it is not as easy as I say, because the challenging moments can come many more times than for somebody else than it does for me. So I say, for me, every time I am going through a challenging moment, I think about after. Once I am past this challenging moment, how am I going to feel? Am I going to be happy, excited, nervous, you know, like ecstatic about being past this challenging moment? Then after I think about that and I am motivated to get through this challenging moment, what can I do to then get through it? And then it takes about like step by step and kind of figuring out the goals, the different things you need to do to be able to achieve that goal, right? But yeah, I mean, I honestly think sometimes it's not about talking to the person who's going through the challenging moment. It's also talking about the people who are capable of kind of changing, who have power to change certain things, right? Whether it's the people who authorities or the people who are in who are I don't know, who are like organizations or leaders, you know, who are able to change people's lives, especially the ones below them. Then I should be talking to them, because then they are the ones who can change your life, right? So I think as much as you can kind of you can control your controllables, but things that are uncontrollable by you, let it go. Like it's nothing you can do about it. Just control what you can, because that's the only thing that matters. Yeah, everything else we need to talk to the other people who can control those uncontrollables that you can't control.
Definitely. So this will be the last question. And if we didn't get to your question, we will definitely email the speaker and she will give you a brief answer and we'll share that along. So the last question here is, how are you promoting inclusion of people with disabilities in Singapore? And what message would you like to tell young girls when they want to be like you?
What am I doing? I think different things. For one, kind of practicing what I preach. So by putting out the message that of living the life that I want people to be able to live, right? If you talk about accessibility, which is really important to me, I help out with things like the Smart BFA project. I am on the board for the Singapore Disability Sports Council, so that when there are different decisions to be made for the younger disabled athletes, then I am there to actually be able to see that it kind of goes in the direction that I think is important. There are a lot of different things, like when I say, like I talk about media a lot, right? About how you consume media and consume things. That's also one of the things that I think is really important. The newspaper in Singapore, the media outlets in Singapore have definitely played a part in making sure that we promote disability sports as much as we can. I think one of the things that has changed is last time disability sports was put under a non-sport section. So when people consume that media, they unconsciously, subconsciously see disability sports and they don't see it as sport because it's not under the sports section. But then years later, it's finally under the sports section, which is where it belongs. And then people can then kind of slowly change their mindsets, you know. And I think that's one of the ways that it can happen. I go out to talk to different companies, talk about how they can contribute to making sure that they are as inclusive as possible, whether it's disability or LGBTQ rights. There's honestly a lot of ways, I guess. For me, these are the ways that I feel like I can contribute. And so I am doing what I can. But I'm pretty sure there are other ways, whether it's directly relating to legislation and laws, right? That one, I think I feel like I haven't reached that part yet, but I hope to next time. And as to whether people should follow to be the person that I am, I don't think they should. I would definitely encourage them to find themselves and be who they are meant to be. Like I said, take what you can from whatever messages I have given, but don't aspire to be somebody else. Aspire to be you, because that's more important.
Thank you, Theresa. I'll now be handing over to Sumaya to close.
Thank you, Theresa girl. That was an amazing sharing. You have came here to share today, right? But do you know what you did? You gave us hope. You have made us believe that we can actually change our fate anytime. You made us believe that however we are born, whatever life throws at us, we can overcome it anytime. So thank you, Theresa, for joining here with us. You are really a great inspiration for us. I'm Sumaya Hussein Binti from Bangladesh chapter. And on behalf of every chapters, I would like to say thank you, Theresa, for joining with us. And I would like to give a special thanks to SpunkGo team and obviously Netra for arranging this session, and obviously KeyNote for collaborating. And at the end, I would like to sign out of here by saying that stay well, stay safe in this COVID period. And whatever you do, always keep your eyes on SpunkGo website. That is www.spunkgo.com. And with that, good day, everyone, and good day, Theresa.